India, a country of mysticism, culture, beauty, warmth, and diversity, is one that invites, enthralls, and captures one's imagination and one's soul. From the beaches of the west, to the Himalayan mountains in the north, and to the jungles of the east and the south, India has an enriched history. India, as we know it today, is in a race. The race against time, shifting gears to surge forward. And in a country with a population of over 1 billion, where space is a luxury and crowds are the norm, in the heart of the city that never sleeps, you will find a place where time can come to a standstill, yet moves at over 60 kilometers per hour. Where 120 seconds can feel like a decade and 10 seconds a lifetime. Where open grounds, vast spaces and adrenaline rushes find their place in the hearts of millions. These magical places are the race courses of India. Racing in India was started during the British Raj. Every cantonment in India had a racecourse, and race meetings were being organized since the 18th century. The running of the Viceroy Cup in 1956 gave a push to Indian racing and was an event of tremendous prestige. It was only a matter of time before the local elite and the Maharajas were bitten by the racing bug. And soon the sport of kings spread through India like wildfire.
If you look at the history of Indian racing, it goes back many, many years and centuries. In fact, it goes back even before the British first landed in India, where the horse was an integral part of the Indian community, and tales of great courage of great horses with warriors was well known. Shivaji had great horses, Rana Pratap, the Queen of Jhansi. So it really goes back many years. The British then came in and channelized it to a far greater extent and brought Indian racing and set the structure on which it was to be constructed. The first to be attracted, of course, were the kings and the Maharajas of the princely states. Well, with independence, we said goodbye to the princely states and we said goodbye to the Maharajas. But racing, that continued in full swing and went from strength to strength, with the business tycoons, industrialists, and the millionaires from all over the country stepping in where the Maharajas had left off.
At the start of the 20th century, when the Aga Khan and Sir Victor Sassoon, two pillars of the British turf, extended their support to India, it resulted in the import of thoroughbreds on a larger scale. And that is when thoroughbred breeding in India began to take shape. The breeding industry in India has flourished at a galloping rate. And from the small and humble post-independence beginnings, Indian stud farms and their produce are gradually reaching a mark which is earning recognition more consistently on the international stage. Today, India has 89 stud farms, 123 stallions, and 3,615 broodmares registered with the Stud Book Authority of India. But more than the quantum growth, it's the gigantic step forward in quality which has made all the difference. Close to 200 broodmares are imported each year, and in 2010, Indian breeders imported 18 new stallions. Farms like Usha and Poonawalla have won laurels year after year. Stallion imports like Everyday the Second, Grey Gaston, Common Land and Malvado in the 80s, preceded the greats Razine and Placerville in the 90s. Today, an import to the Sona stud, like French Star Nouvelle, demonstrates that India is an extremely attractive destination for stallions and broodmares. With the cost of breeding and rearing in Europe rising, and an unavailability of manpower there, India is a future with developed best breeding practices at low costs and abundant manpower. Most purchases happen privately, and the unsold 2-year-olds go under the hammer at India's biggest annual sale at the Royal Western India Turf Club premises in Pune. All racehorses have passports that are on international norms. And from the year 2005, every racehorse entering an Indian racecourse was microchipped, a significant step to ensure controls by the Stud Book Authority of India. The Stud Book Authority of India is the keeper of all records in India, and it represents India at international stud book and breeding forums. All breeding establishments, broodmares, stallions and foals have to be registered with the Stud Book Authority of India, and it is responsible for publications such as the Return of Mares, the Indian Stud Book and India's Stallion Register. Now, in 2010, India has 238 trainers, 331 jockeys and 109 apprentice jockeys. If one was to consider the total number of people employed directly with the sport of racing and breeding, it is well above the 100,000 mark, which virtually makes it an industry, one which sadly has received little or no support from the government. Yet one can proudly say that Indian racing is growing. The total collection on the totalizer pools is $449 million US, and the bookmakers contribute another 40 million to this amount, including overlapping days. India races over 447 days each year, with 3,540 races in total, and nearly 10 million attendees. India has nearly 9 active racecourses and 5 turf authorities. The Royal Western India Turf Club Limited manages racing in Mumbai, Pune and Delhi. The Royal Calcutta Turf Club in Kolkata. The Madras Race Club in Chennai and Ooty. The Bangalore Turf Club in Bangalore and Mysore. And the Hyderabad Race Club in Hyderabad. All these bodies form the Turf Authorities of India, which is responsible for the licensing of all professionals. Each club manages its own betting, which is on a pari-mutual system that lives with licensed bookmakers too. The racing calendar in India officially begins on the first day of May each year, and all racing is on the flat and right-handed. While most of the country reels under this searing heat of 40 degrees Celsius, about 6,000 feet above sea level, is the picturesque hill station of Ooty. The Ooty racing season runs from mid-April to the end of May. A descent down the Ghats and into the Garden City, Bangalore. This is where the Bangalore Turf Club plays host to the Bangalore summer season from May to August, a season considered as one of the most important in India. Today, with well over 70 race days, packed into the 2 racing seasons of summer and winter, the Bangalore Turf Club boasts a 2,000-meter turf track and 2 sand work tracks and underground stable facilities, a first in India. Not surprisingly then, that Bangalore is home to many leading professionals in the country. Not more than a few hours away, the Mysore Race Club, which comes under the purview of the BTC, is yet another independent race club and adds to the race days each year, with its own seasons running almost all through the year. With the advent of the monsoon in July, racecourses in Kolkata, the City of Joy, Pune, the Cantonment City, Hyderabad, the Infotech City, and Mysore all gear up for the popular monsoon racing season. Each of these centers race concurrently from July through October on specially laid monsoon tracks, even able to take up to 8 inches of overnight rain and yet be fit for racing. The monsoon finally gives way to winter, and Indian racing blossoms and goes into overdrive. Adrenaline rises as classic hopefuls and the next generation of champions prepare to fulfill their destinies. Starting at the banks of the River Hooghly in Kolkata, against the backdrop of the Victoria Memorial, the Royal Calcutta Turf Club is the oldest race club in the country, dating back to 1847. Host to the Queen Elizabeth II Cup, the Indian Champion, and the Calcutta Gold Cups. Most would agree that this is amongst the most beautifully laid out race courses in the world. 2 turf and training tracks, and 2,800 meters in circumference, fit in about 75 days of racing between the monsoon and the winter. New Year's Day and Derby Day are two red-letter days in the calendar, and crowds of over 25,000 throng the 5 heritage stands that grace the turf here. Down the east coast is the city of Chennai. The Madras Race Club dates back to the mid-1850s. In the 1980s, they won a landmark Supreme Court verdict against the Tamil Nadu government, which deemed horse racing a sport in India forever. The Madras Race Club is also home to the largest individual race owner of all time in India, Dr. M.A.M. Ramaswamy, whose gold and brown belt silks have blazed tracks across India. Moving from the east coast to the west, we come to Mumbai, the financial capital of India and the city that never sleeps. Here, the Mahalakshmi Racecourse is located right across the Arabian Sea and has been the home of the Royal Western India Turf Club since 1883, when Sir Khusro Wadia set up the foundation of what would become the showpiece of Indian racing. With a 2,400-meter track and a 600-meter straight, the RWITC and the Mahalakshmi Racecourse has the distinction of playing host to the 5 Indian classics: the Indian 1000 and 2000 Guineas, the Indian Oaks, the Indian Derby, and the Saint Leger. With 70 race days of the RWITC split between Mumbai and Pune for the winter and monsoon, this is one of the most competitive race meets in India. And finally, the Hyderabad Race Club, the youngest of the 5 turf authorities, but at the forefront of Indian racing. The Hyderabad Race Club has been one of the most innovative race clubs in India, and if one considers that racing began at the current location about 40 years ago, one cannot help but marvel at its progress. The racing season over the monsoon and winter are home to 2 individual tracks for each of the seasons. The HRC was also the first to set up off-course betting centres and put up a new grandstand on the racetrack for over 10,000 spectators. Home to the President of India Gold Cup and the Nizam's Gold Cup, Hyderabad races over approximately 65 race days and on some weekends has attracted nearly 60,000 spectators. Always moving forward, their latest venture, double-storied stables, have met with great success. In 1992, a special committee to look at pattern races was established, and the graded race pyramid in India was carefully crafted to provide India its most prestigious races. These includes the classics and the Indian turf invitation races that are now rotated between the 5 racing authorities. In the mid-90s, the instituting of million races have now become some of the most prestigious races in India, and even while they spurred the import of broodmares and subsequently new heights in foal production, Indian racehorses looked at overseas to set the platform for Indian racing to become international. Horses such as Saddle Up, Astonish, Adler, and Mystical went on to raise the Indian flag in Singapore, Hong Kong, the US, and Dubai, with Saddle Up even winning Horse of the Year honours in Singapore.
Astonished by a half to icy bet and enthusiasm from T-Mart, and this is a nice new import.
Here's a little page of history being written. Mystical in front of Hall Hu and Yarkus, and Mystical for India has won the money. Mystical.
The Indian Professional too has always been of a high calibre, and the jockeys have brought laurels from across the seas. Jockeys like Suraj Naridu, who recently raised the Indian flag in Mauritius, and Malesh Naridu, an invitee to the Shergar Cup, are glowing testimonies to the dedication and skill of India's stars. The 21st century has seen Indian racing make dynamic strides, even as the power axis began to shift and India began to expand as an economy. The Indian classics began to find sponsors, and soon the Indian and regional derbies had money, glamour, and media attention, fueling the new awakening of Indian racing. The UB Group, led by the flamboyant business tycoon, Dr. Vijay Mallya, led the way, not just sponsoring the derbies, but winning the Indian Derby 3 times himself, considering that the first Indian Derby in 1943 paid a princely sum of $700 and that the 2011 Indian Derby will pay $400,000. It is clear that Indian racing has truly taken off. The stake money on offer in India has risen dramatically in the course of the last decade, and today it stands at $33 million. With 5,246 horses, more than many Asian racing nations, the average stake purse per horse is comparatively high in India.
In India, we have made tremendous progress in sponsorship across all our major racing centers. For example, in Mumbai, the 5 Indian Classics are all sponsored. The principal derbies at Hyderabad, Bangalore, Kolkata, even Delhi are now sponsored. And we have taken up the level of corporates in sponsoring racing across the country, whether it's real estate, whether it's liquor, whether it's hospitality, whether it's fast foods, whether even from the financial services sector. With the promotion of racing as a lifestyle sport and the advent of live coverage of racing on television has significantly improved the corporate interest in horse racing.
And in 2010, if there was evidence needed that Indian racing had truly become international, a got-abroad filly called Jacqueline captured the imagination of India. In a space of 2 months, this wonder filly, ridden by champion English jockey Richard Hughes, swept the 1,000 guineas, 2,000 guineas, Oaks, and the Derby, creating not just in India, but a world record. When one considers that Indian racecourses have mixed the greats of Indian racing, Rashid Bairamji and Pacey Shroff, with the likes of Christophe Lemaire, Mick Kinnan, Kieran Fallon, Lester Piggott, William Carson and Richard Hughes, many of whom honed their skills in India, and when the great imports, Racine and Placerville, now find space for new and exciting stallions, such as the French Star Nouvelle, it is evident that Indian racing has arrived. India as a destination where investments are realizing immense returns. The horse racing story in India has only just started to be explored by the international racing fraternity and is one which has the potential of a great market and an unforgettable experience.